Welcome to another exciting episode of Growth Leaders. Today we have a special guest, Richard O'Connor, the CEO of B2B Marketing, the leading global resource for B2B marketeers. With decades of leadership across companies like UBM, Informa, and The Independent, Richard has transformed industry and teams around the world. Under his guidance, B2B Marketing has become a powerhouse for innovation, community building, and growth. In today's episode, he'll share his leadership journey, insights on skills development, and what it takes to succeed in today's digital age. Get ready for an incredible conversation. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you very much for having me, Peter. And that was a very generous introduction. I hope I can live up to that billing.
Well, I don't think that's any problem. So, Richard, you are the CEO of B2B Marketing in the UK. It's a professional community for large organizations globally where B2B marketing can easily communicate with industry peers. And one of your key offerings is Propolis, a digital community hub giving instant access to relevant tools, benchmarks, and training, as well as supporting the global membership of B2B. And your background covers the globe. When I've been researching, we've been talking with some impressive companies and assignments. So you've led teams around the world and markets and industries. Can you see how your leadership style has evolved through these experiences? And are there moments where you really say, well, this has actually shaped me as a leader?
Yeah, I think leadership broadly, and certainly in my own experience, has evolved quite a lot in the last 20 years and even more in the last 5. If I think back to when I started, there was definitely a culture of kind of leading from the front, and the leader being the leader being the person that was trying to conquer Everest and bringing the team along. And I think that has changed quite dramatically. I think now the leader's role is to sit at base camp and eagerly await news of the team reaching the summit. So I think that has changed. So there was that sort of the kind of leading from the front approach, but now it's all about the team and getting barriers out of the way and unblocking things so that the team can perform. In terms of moments for me, there's moments that shape you. A big one was working on a transformation project in different countries, particularly Asia, where the rules are slightly different, and the philosophy and the culture and what values drive people are different to what we have in the West. And being able to affect change and lead and inspire people to do things differently took a different set of skills. So those being able to navigate a different culture, particularly in mainland China and Hong Kong, was a fundamentally profound experience, and really did shape me as a leader and enabled me to be perhaps a little bit more empathetic to different.
Do you see that those lessons? I've gone through the same journey, being working there, has had an impact on what you do on a daily basis in Europe too, or in the UK?
Yes, I do, because I think what you become more attuned to is that people's motivators are not the same. Once you take money off the table, the things that drive people are not really to do with money. I mean, you get some very, driven salespeople where it's all about money, but even those, if they're paid fairly and feel like they're reaching their earning potential, it's not what drives people. It's, a big believer in the Daniel Pink autonomy, mastery, and purpose. But people's motivators are nuanced, and I think when you've worked in different countries and had to really dig a bit deeper on what drives people, that goes with you in the future, and you start to understand a little bit more and take a bit more time to understand people's fundamental motivators. And I think it's interesting. Leadership has again evolved in the last 5 years. It's much more inclusive now. It's understanding people who are entering the workforce now, and what motivates them and what drives them, again, is different to what it was for us, and certainly for people in the last 10 to 15 years. Experiences matter. What the office experience, what the learning opportunities are, stretch assignments, they're all important. I think being willing to just dig beneath the surface on individual motivators has become a more important skill as a leader.
So we can then jump a little bit, since you are at the helm of the B2B marketing. So what do you see as most critical traits for leaders? I'm not talking only CMOs now, but for leaders in the digital age. Because one thing is, yeah, and maybe it is communication. I don't know where you're going to go on that one. What are the important traits in the digital age here for
I
leaders?
think there are a few. The big one is being adaptable, it is being agile, the ability to recognize the difference between a potential distraction and a potential long-term strategic goal, because the pace of change has increased enormously. And the best example is, it wouldn't be a podcast without mentioning AI, but perhaps a different angle on AI. AI is a huge challenge for leaders because it's changing daily, not weekly, monthly, daily. There are new entrants, new technologies, new opportunities, and being able to distinguish between what are strategically important, the things that you cannot ignore, and what could be a costly distraction and a gimmick is really important. So it's much harder as a leader to be able to navigate between just because you can doesn't mean you necessarily should. But the distinction between those two things is getting a lot harder with AI.
But it's still, as you say, the soft side, which those traits are still very high up. If we take that one level down, what skills are absolutely non-negotiable for success in the marketing landscape? And
Sure.
yeah, we can
I mean, I think
take that, and then we can get into what you guys do in the community. But there are some specific skills. And if I come I was the marketing director in 1968 and still running. It's a difference, I presume.
There is. One of the challenges of very capable and talented marketers with technology and with busy roles and being forced to do more with less is it's very easy to become pigeonholed as doing marketing communications and also project managing the tech stack. If you speak to most marketers, they are dealing with 5, 6, 10 pieces of technology. And where we're crusading, if you like, is for marketers to not lose touch with the core business. We think there are 6 core skills that are important for B2B marketers to stay relevant, to demonstrate their impact on the business. One is being insightful, staying close to the customer, to what they need, because you have to understand directly from them what matters and what matters to those as individuals. Being analytical, being able to use data, data-driven decisions, having financial acumen, being able not to speak the language of marketing to the CFO or the CEO or even to the sales team, but being able to speak in a language they understand. Being strategic is another. Understanding the role of marketing in driving the overall business strategy, not just a siloed marketing strategy. Discussed already, agile decision making. I think they are some of the core things, and being able to demonstrate success in a way that the board, the CFO, the CEO understand.
Yeah, so now we're really talking about empowering the CMOs to become similar to maybe revenue officers or the sales manager or sales director, etc. And of course, moving up into the executive management as a key player.
Sure.
I guess you can see similarities in the L&D function, the learning and development functions, where most of the cases have not fully succeeded in the talent orientation. And that is the lack of the business strategy and connecting the dots here. And that's exactly the same what you're talking about here, getting the empowerment.
Yes,
we talk here about also
the
data analysis. And I know, yeah, I'm sorry.
So I was just going to say,
Yeah.
I think from an L&D point of view, the Kirkpatrick 4-stage model, the reaction to training, then demonstrating the impact, the behavioural change, the last level 4 bit, demonstrating the tangible return. That's the bit that remains really difficult, I think, for learning and development departments and for all training programs. It's that kind of higher level of actual return on objectives or return on investment. Agreed.
Yeah. So looking into one piece here is the data analytics. You've developed the Propolis Community Index. And before we get into that, could you explain a little bit what that is? And then also, how do you gather the science in the index? And how could that data analysis help marketing organizations around the world?
Yeah, again, thinking about the commercial marketer, what we're trying to do is allow marketers, marketing leaders, teams, CMOs to be able to have a set of reliable benchmarks and index data that they can use to influence decisions, that they can use to compare themselves against their own industry, their own sector, say professional services or technology or manufacturing, but also across sectors as well. Being able to say, this is a typical budget spend for, a technology organization, and we're in professional services, and also from region to region. So there is a lack of reliable metrics and benchmarks that, marketers need to be able to make data-driven decisions, make a business case for change, be able to go to the board and say, look, if you want me to grow this organization, stop cutting my budget. You need to increase my budget. And here's the reason why. Because I think the big challenge that I think most B2B marketers would empathize with is this principle of doing more with less. And as somebody who comes from a sales background, I recognize that. You recognize that often a piece of business that's closed today actually originated from a piece of marketing that happened a year ago.
Absolutely. But how do you gather the data, the science about this index
So we gather,
because the reliability here is, of course, important.
Of course. So we work with a research partner, and we also have what we call a give to get model. So we have a kind of a critical mass of data that we work with a very reliable, well-established research partner, but also as Propolis as members, clients become members of Propolis, they provide their data in return for the aggregate data. So we're constantly collecting data all the time. So it's a constantly changing picture, but it allows us to collect data from the right size organization of the right profile, so that people are genuinely looking at peers. Yes, we have a robust data collection method.
Oh, that's interesting. Let's talk a little bit about your view on leaders recruitment. How do you approach and identify and nurture leaders in your organization or previous organizations? Say, yeah, I want her, or I want him, or what is your thinking behind that?
I've got perhaps an interesting, a different view on this to many. I mean, you have to have the fundamental skills. You have to have a core set of skills in order to be able to do the job. But once you've got that core set of skills and experiences, it's actually attitude and values that I think distinguish the best leaders. It's the ones who, particularly emerging leaders, somebody who's coming out of a junior management role into a leadership role. Their ability, if the raw material is there, if that curiosity, that willingness to learn, willingness to experiment is there, I would take that. I always remember the book Good to Great, the Jim Collins book Good to Great. And the thing that stuck with me was, get the right people on the bus. And there's been many situations where I've put people into more senior roles that don't necessarily have all of the experience, but the right attitude.
Yeah. So in reality, if we put that down to, guys and girls, motivation, curiosity, trust in other people, listening to other people, and then have a strong will to make something good, great out of it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then with the right level of support and direction and coaching, I think people have a lot of limiting beliefs, self-limiting beliefs. And actually, if you as a leader can push them beyond what they think is possible for themselves, you're often, or more than often than not, surprised and delighted with the results.
Yeah. So what has been one of your tougher learnings as a leader? Have you had any shit, I shouldn't have done that? Or that you learned afterwards, I could have done it in a different way, which maybe had been even.
I think coming back to the Asia example, trying to do the research on how to challenges might be, but still landing in that region with an approach that said, all right, you're going to come with me in the next month, and look, here's the plan. This is what we're going to do. We're going to roll out a new CRM system. We're going to change the organizational design. This is why. Here's the vision. Come on the journey with us. But I think my expectation was probably a little bit too ambitious, that we'd get people behind the whole thing in a short period of time. It took significantly longer.
Everybody was nodding, but
It's exactly that, and that's the everybody agreed. Nobody asked questions. Everybody. I walked out of the room with everybody looking like they were fully behind it, and then you'd leave and nothing would happen. And it took quite a few goes before things did start to happen. And it was that trust thing. It just takes time to build trust in a different culture, and it's particularly when you're coming from the West and trying to affect change.
So let's move to another area which you guys are working a lot with is communities. And then I am talking about company communities, non-profit organization communities. So a lot of marketeers, and we are looking at it and so on, are looking to build these communities. First of all, what is a community? And should everybody have a community? Or when is it valid to actually invest to do these things? And are there any keys for success which must be filled in? A little bit around your thinking, because I know you guys are doing a big job in this area.
I think a few dynamics, and we've talked about one of those already, trust. There is a big trust issue with data, with how people are communicated with messaging. There's also an issue around privacy. Large language models have accelerated that. People are worried about what they're putting out into the world via ChatGPT and others. Community and trusted communities, and this is the important point, is creating a space where people can be vulnerable, where they feel that they can share their challenges, they can share the things that are bothering them with their peers in a way that is not going to translate into being sold to, translate into something that leaks beyond that community. We're lucky because in B2B marketing, there is a huge generosity of spirit. There is a willingness to share. And when we run our events or we get people together in a room, you can just sense that willingness to share and be open about and transparent about challenges. Creating Propolis was our way of allowing people to learn, share, ask questions, connect with people who are going through similar issues in different regions in a way that is protected. It's protected from view. It's not a social media platform where everyone can see, and it's everyone broadcasting the good, which I think is what a lot of social media platforms have become. It's just about broadcast and telling everybody what great work that we're doing. And I should say that we do that ourselves. But actually a community where it's much more about the pragmatism of doing the role of being a marketer, the challenges, the issues.
But isn't there a risk? Isn't there a risk also for the companies, setting up a community, because they could clearly get some bad input there, which could harm, brand sales, etc. So I mean, thinking. There must be more consideration than discussing all the positives or discussing all the topics. But there is also
absolutely. Yeah. I think people are. We don't get an entirely opening of the kimono, and here are the very, very detailed granular challenges. But there's enough in there for people to be able to share, their broad issues. And as the community grows, there's more conversation and more trust in each other. I think you're right. It has to have guardrails. There have to be community guidelines. There have to be rules of the road about how people share, which we're very clear on. So we have very clear community guidelines, including a no selling policy. Because the second that those are broken, then the community dries up. The vulnerability is not there. I guess the other element of Propolis is it's an expert community. So we have a team of experts who are B2B marketing practitioners who are there to also provide guidance, who are there to also help support, answer questions, have face-to-face time with members of the community as well. So I think communities take management, but having that expertise in there means that people can rely on an extra pair of eyes, an experienced pair of eyes on some of their challenges and their strategy and so on. So communities are very difficult to build. They don't build organically. They take work, they take management, and they take investment. So anyone thinking about a community, I would be thinking about having a community manager, be thinking about the strategy, be thinking about why would people turn up. Yes, so I
That's
think
great.
that, yeah.
It's a good input, and we are just starting with the community building is learning along the way here. Now, I'm going to have some rapid fire questions to you. Are you ready?
Yes, why not?
What's the first thing you do to start your day?
Run, typically,
Oh,
or compete with myself to get out of the house slightly quicker than yesterday.
okay. Is running also where you get energized?
It's a way of channeling
Um, yeah,
channeling stress. Yes, it's my way of channeling the negative stuff into something more positive.
that's a good thinking way. One book that had a lasting impact on you.
Definitely Good to Great. I thought that was a brilliant book. I recommend anyone reads that. Full of great insights.
Okay. And if you could describe your leadership style in one word, what would that be? Your favorite productivity hack?
That's got to be ChatGPT. It's cut so much admin, research time, and it's just getting better all the time. It's the best productivity hack of the last 50 years, I think.
The best advice you have.
Manage your energy was a really good piece of advice. That came from a coach of mine who said, look, recognize where in the week, where in the day you have your energy, and do the hard work then. And recognize that, when you're feeling under pressure and, moments where, you're not feeling quite so good, that they will pass. So actually recognizing the flow of the week and where your energy comes from and what gives you energy in the times of the day is a really smart piece of advice, because you can calibrate your week to be most productive in those periods.
Well, I fully agree with that. You know what, Richard? It's great talking to you, getting your insights and recommendations and listening to your experience. So I would like to thank you so much for being part of the Growth Leaders podcast today. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.